trip on the cords as you come up. You do that. All right. Showtime. Yeah. I don't know. Welcome. Good to see you all. Let's pray. And then we have 4 announcements, 2 videos, about a dozen speakers, and day 12 of my beard. So anyway, we're bringing it all here. So thank you. Yeah. Itchy face November is what it is. All right, let's pray. Father, thank you for this time. Thank you for those who have worked hard behind the scenes to put this chapel together. May we be a respectful, honoring audience as we show the work that you're doing in the lives of the students who are talking today, and not just here but around the world as well. In your name, amen. All right, the first announcement of the 4, I don't know if you know this, but a couple of your peers had a big weekend this weekend, and these 2 fellas earned their Eagle Scout award. And so I was in Cub Scouts a long time ago, and I think I made it to like the 3rd level. I was a wee below. I had a bad experience with the Pinewood Derby. I lost badly, and I never really recovered. So David and Vance obviously got past that stage, but Eagle Scouts are a pretty rare commodity. So these guys were honored in a ceremony this weekend, and I don't know how many of you knew that, but I just thought you should know that. Drew Carlson, I don't know if he's here, but also Drew Carlson is also an Eagle Scout. So good job, Drew, for that. So cool stuff for those guys. Chess news, no Franklin today, just me. But if you're doing the chess tournament, all right, next week, or I'm sorry, tomorrow at lunch, meet with Franklin. We'll set the bracket, the opponent draw, and you'll actually start playing during interest group time next week. And I still have the trophy in my office, so it's pretty fabulous. So do that if you would. Mousetrap, where's my man? Mr. Alex Lober, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, everybody. So there's a few of us that have been working really, really hard on this play, and we've had a couple of late nights this week, and we just put a lot of hard work into it. We would love if you guys come out and support it. It's tonight, tomorrow night, and Saturday night, all at 7:30. So please support it. It is not a blackout. I am sorry, but yeah. So. Brief synopsis. So basically, it's a murder mystery. And it opens with someone being murdered, and the rest of the play is people trying to figure out who it is. And there'll also be a prize for someone who can guess who the murderer is. So come on out.
Thanks, sir. All right. All right, my friends. Behold. Wait a minute.
Matthew! What? The dance is coming!
The dance is coming!
Yeah!
Yeah!
Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Man, it doesn't show signs. The weather outside is frightful, but
What's that? Dear God.
let it snow, let it snow.
Where's Mick? Where's Mick? Mick, it's a formal. It's a formal. Okay, so this year, the dance is Let It Snow, and it's gonna be on December 12th from 8 to 10:30. Tickets are $20 each, and it's gonna be at the Maidenbauer Center in Bellevue. So more ticket information will come out soon. Freshmen, have fun.
Just so you know, they've been working on this poster a long time, so respect the poster, respect the snowflake. All right. That is excellent. We'll get that up after the play. All right. All right. So our focus today is going to involve a lot of your peers. So I want you to be a great audience and start now, if you would, by giving a hand to Mrs. Braisted as she leads the way.
Hello, everyone. I am genuinely excited to be sharing with you today because I am a person who is passionate about the possibility of students seeing the world. And while I'm not a person who believes that you have to leave the country to do good, in fact, I believe quite the opposite, I do truly believe that there is something unique and profound and powerful about stepping so far beyond what you're used to, what you're comfortable, and what you've come to know for the better part of your life. I also believe there's power when you do that with peers. Something that happens when you stand alongside another person and have the sense that you're in it together, and that there is a person who understands what you've seen and what you're wondering and what you're wrestling with, going through with you in that moment this very new and challenging and exciting thing. And many of your peers in your midst took that opportunity, and I know that many of you have. And today you're going to hear about that opportunity extended again. We talk a lot about the reason for mission when we prepare for these trips. We talk about the fact that it is not to fix or save or to convert, but it is to go and listen and learn and do our best to love in the way that Christ has loved us. And also to receive love, because make no mistake, these trips are reciprocal. I think you would find that any student that has gone on this trip will tell you, I did have a meaningful opportunity to share love, but what I received back was as important and as meaningful and as impactful. The people that we encounter, their stories matter. And we try to go with that knowledge in our hearts and our minds. That their stories matter and that we have something to learn from them as much as we have something to give. And so we seek to walk alongside the people that are already doing the work of God. God's church is all among this big, wide world. And when we go, we are simply invited to join in what He is already doing. I think when you hear messages like today, typically you anticipate hearing primarily about what the teams did. And in a moment you will hear a little bit about what they did. But more so, I want you to hear about what it meant for them to be there, what they took away, what they're still experiencing, what has stood out. Because more than just going, it is the question, what has God done because you did? So that is primarily what you'll hear today, what these trips meant to those that have gone. And also, I want you to know that this message today is not just about the people that share from stage. This message is about you in the audience. It is a message that is meant to remind you that the power of God is within you, that you are equipped to go, and the rest really just lies in the details. So as you hear this message, I want to invite you, I want to challenge you to be reminded that this is not simply about the people on stage. It is as much about you. And finally, and perhaps most meaningful, it's about the people that we've encountered. It's an opportunity to serve them just a little bit more by sharing just a snippet of their story, by what they've given us, by shedding light on what they've endured, what they've persevered, and what God is doing in their life, and the blessings that we reaped because we got to be with them for just a little bit. So, there were 3 2015 Mission Experiences teams. The trip to Thailand and Myanmar is primarily focused on visiting 2 orphanages, one in Thailand and one in Myanmar, that is led by people that we have long-standing, trusted relationships with. The children that live there, their dreams are like ours, their goals are like ours, but their lives look different in many ways. So the purpose of that trip is to be present, to be playful, to be available, to laugh and to love and to shed attention on those children that they wouldn't normally have received. The trip to Costa Rica, primarily the focus is to visit ministry sites that have been established by a local and wonderful organization that we partner with called Students International. Team members that go to Costa Rica select the ministry site that they're most interested in, whether it's woodshop or sports camps, microfinance, tutoring. And your days on the ground are spent at those sites getting to know well the children and the adults that come each day. Just being present, encouraging, playing, getting to know. A unique aspect of the Costa Rica trip is that team members stay together in either groups of 2 or 3 in homestays. So the cultural immersion there is very exciting. And lastly, the trip to El Salvador is one where we partner with an incredible ministry known as Niños Tres Rios, who gives focus to 13 villages in El Salvador, where among many incredible goals, their primary focus is to encourage families to educate their children. And not just educate their children for a short time, but to truly educate their children for the span of time that you've come to know an education to be. They continue their support in an ongoing way, not just with money, not just with items, but with presence. And so for our El Salvador team, we invited students from those 13 villages that have hopes, that have dreams, that have promise, and we brought them to be with our team. And there was a daily exchange of ideas, of lessons, of what is your life like, and here's a little bit about what my life is like. So the thread that I hope you hear as I describe briefly these trips is that it's not so much about what we do. I didn't describe profound painting projects, building of churches. It is about being there. It is the ministry of presence with the idea that God will do something powerful and meaningful and sustaining by connecting people from across the world. So it's my privilege to invite a small group of students that represent these 3 trips to share with you just a small piece of what it meant to go. So if all of you would come up and stand. Miss Anderson, you want to kick us off?
Okay, so I saw the Lord immensely at work in the lives of my team that went to Costa Rica this last summer, mostly in the relationships. There's a lot of relationships that are built while we're there. Most profoundly, I would say the relationships that were built among the team members was pretty phenomenal. We had 7 students that went, and they got to be a really tight bunch. And through those relationships, they also built lasting friendships with all of the people that they worked with at the ministry sites. And they found that even if they didn't speak the same language or grow up in the same type of scenario, they could actually find a lot of commonalities and a lot of friendship in that. And then finally, in their host families, the love of the Lord was so evident in how they truly became a family with their host parents and host families. So the work of God was really evident in the way that we built community and the way that we loved each other while we were down there.
What is something that surprised me? Well, one thing that surprised me about my trip, well, our team, we are very small, and with limited Spanish experience, but something that surprised me was how well we could communicate with the students. They were very Spanish speaking, they didn't speak very much English, and we could, after a few days, we could exchange ideas and we could talk with them. And at the beginning, we were like, we didn't know if we could speak Spanish because some of us didn't have much Spanish experience. But in the end, we were all pretty good with them. And we felt like we got the ideas clearly to them. And we felt like we built relationships with them, even through the language barrier that we had. And something that surprised me about myself was how much of a bond I could create with the other guys on the trip. You know, it was just us 5 and all 5 guys. You know, so we're a tight bunch. We were homies. We had a good time.
So for me to say that going on a trip to Thailand and Myanmar changed me is a complete understatement. More accurately, going on this trip ruined my life. And by that, I mean, when I came back, I was not able to return to my normal self and who I was. It was no longer possible for me to just find happiness in material things. The first day that I came back, I went upstairs to the bathroom and I just started crying and could not stop, and it was kind of embarrassing. But it was because I hated my house. I hated how nice it was, and I hated that I had such a nice, easy life. And I hated, most of all, there was like a sign in my bathroom because like decoration, but I hated that cost probably $20. And instead of providing for the people I met, it was just sitting in my house doing nothing. And that just really frustrated me. After 17 days of being with these kids and serving them and just seeing how joyful they are and just feeling Jesus' love everywhere, it's impossible to come back as the same person you were. It's just crazy to me now that I'd prefer to be there with them, with those kids in a hot orphanage with dirty food that sometimes gives you food poisoning, and just playing and being sweaty and dirty and just exhausted. I would now prefer that to being in my comfortable, nice American lifestyle. And there's nothing wrong with having nice things, but they don't necessarily make you happy. But being with those kids for 17 days, like, that gives you such a deep joy because they love you, not because of anything material, but because you love them. So just to feel that love was amazing, and it's a joy that lasts forever.
So one thing I wish for as a result of the trip is to be able to connect with people that are very different from me, because even though the kids in Thailand, they spoke a different language than me, and they lived an extremely different lifestyle. They became some of the best friends I've ever had. So I would just encourage you all to really not just try to make friends with people who are exactly like you, but also branch out into other areas and try to build friendships with people who are different than you.
One way this experience had stretched me as a person was to see a different set of values, for instance. Even though we all, for example, know that relationships matter probably the most in our lives too, we don't always act upon those motives all the time too. For instance, you could have a friend that asks if you want to come over, and instead you might just say, hey, I'm just going to study instead too. And then let's say you do get a big house, you have a lot of money, got a good job and everything too. But then you might get like a call or something, they passed away, then suddenly none of that means anything to you anymore suddenly then. And it's not necessarily about like in our cultures, if it's like food or just like what people like really too, but how you connect with others, which I think was very profound. Even though we all know this in our course, and this wasn't anything new for me to already know, it did want me to set on putting my actions more in that direction too, and bring up my motives.
So one thing that like I'll never forget from our trip to El Salvador was the second day we were there, we went and visited a big national hospital, and just like seeing all the families going through all their hard times was like really impactful and just made me think about everything that we have. And then we also handed out, I think, almost 800 Bibles to families that were inside the hospital with sick kids and family members and stuff. And so it was really awesome because almost every single person that we gave Bibles to, they right then and there sat down and started reading them, and that was just awesome to see. So, yeah.
Besides the obvious, I love to eat Thai food. I love to cook Thai food. And watch this. Sawadee-ka. Yes, those are things that I hold on to that remind me of this trip. Also, I intentionally search for news now about Thailand, about Myanmar. I celebrated, I hope some of you know this, that Myanmar had their first free election in decades. I have learned about the beloved Aung San Suu Kyi, who the Burmese call the lady. Seeing a new world and a new culture has changed me. My world has opened up, and I have been captured by this place that I knew nothing about. My perspective of the planet has changed, from the dirt underneath my feet to the water that I drink, the faith that I have. You begin to ask a lot of questions, you wrestle with things, and you lament. And more importantly though, as Mrs. Braisted pointed out, are the people that you meet. You fall in love with them, like all these people will say, without even trying. We, Japhet, Lydia, Chwin, Pidang, Doi, Supawan, Supama, Natasha, Sunshine, Acha, Pastor Lou, Betty, Stephen, Leah, Judah. These are people that have reached a part of my heart that quite possibly was unreachable. They leave a mark. A big X marks the spot. And I can't wait to see them again. And I hold on to that. And more than that, I can't wait to take other people to meet them. It's like having a family that's halfway across the world. And when I walk out and look at the moon, I think, that's the same moon Leah and Judah and we and Japhet, we all see the same moon and we share that. I'm purposeful to hang on to this experience because it has colored my life in ways that really can't be explained. You really have to experience it yourself.
One thing that I learned as a part of this trip was the value of just loving people. The girls and the boys at Myanmar and Thailand, they didn't care what we had to offer them or how good we were or even if we spoke the same language as them. All they cared about is that we were there to love them. One day when we were leaving Rainbow Children's Home, the little girls took the backpacks and stuff we were carrying out of our hands and they walked to the end of the road with us. And in that moment, I felt so much love and so welcome there. I didn't think I could ever feel that much love or so welcome ever in my life. And I did. And they showed us that without using words. They just did it because they loved us.
Okay, why did I want to be a part of a BCS mission experience team? Honestly, it happened really last minute for me. It was the day before applications were due, and I texted my parents and I said, can I go to Thailand? And they were like, well, we can talk about it this weekend. I said, well, the application's due tomorrow. And they said, we can talk about it at dinner. So then later that night, we were talking about it. I was like, well, I like Thai food. I think I could do this. It was so much more than that. I got so much out of this trip that I never thought would be possible, and I learned so much about myself. The week after we came home, I got baptized for the first time, and I grew so much closer to God through this experience, and I didn't even think that was possible. So yeah, I gained what I hoped. I didn't have a lot of expectations, but whatever they were greatly exceeded.
What was your best day? Well, I can't put just one down it, but I guess the best time would be kind of what Kylie said. When you first approach the Rainbow Children's Home, for example, the abundance of love that you feel. Like, you hear people say it changes you, and it's kind of cliche, you've heard it a lot, but it really does. You feel something in you that's been grabbed, and so there's no awkward barrier. They don't even know who we are. They've never met us. They don't know our language, but they're so open. It's something we don't experience that often in our society, so it's really eye-opening when you feel it. And what was our hardest day? I'd like to say that there was no hard day, but aside from one, it would be the day we had to leave. If I could fix that, I would still be there today. I would, not that school is great, but I would still be there. But it was a bittersweet. I mean, it takes a lot to make me cry, but I pretty much broke down as far as I could. And they're all crying with you, and it's such a full time of embracement, and you feel like you're their family and that you could return anytime you want to, and that you're always welcome there. So that was kind of bittersweet.
What's been hard for me since I returned home was just 3 weeks after we got back, I was going to bed and I looked down, I saw this photo of me and this kid that I met in Thailand, and I realized that I hadn't thought about these kids. I haven't even prayed for them in like 3 days, and just the thought of them slipping my mind after everything they've done for me and how they'd changed my life was almost heartbreaking, and that they could just, like, my daily routine could get in the way of everything that has happened. And what's been good is seeing all the updates from them, seeing some of them have Facebooks, and they're hilarious. They post the funniest things. Seeing that Myanmar is doing, their Rainbow Children's Home is doing okay despite the flooding there, and that they had their first free election. It's all been great. It's been good to pray about them, to know that they're doing okay.
Definitely, I think me and all of my team would agree that what we miss the most is just the people. They become your family. Like we were there for 3 weeks, but I don't think I've felt closer to anyone in my life. And they're the reason that I came back this year, and the reason I hope to go back next year, because they're just the most amazing people you'll ever meet.
What do you want to know about people in Costa Rica? All right, so people there are phenomenal. So they have this thing called Tico time. Yeah, and it's this like tradition / rule that the country has, and it just puts family relationships, friendship, all in front of like jobs. So for example, if you need to go to a job interview and you're talking with someone on the street, like for a friend example, you're going to be late to that job interview, and the guy giving you the job interview will understand because you're talking to a friend. So it's just showing that they care for one another. Like, it's obvious that they don't have as much as we do, but the fact that if they have family and they have friends, they can take that as just as much. So I shared a room with Abram Oz and Mr. Meridian, and that first day we kind of walked in and we were just, a little awkward, and we're like, the language barrier issue, but over time you realize that language barrier does not matter, because love is stronger than that, and people change lives, and so does love. So
I think what you need to know more than anything else is that God prepares you to serve Him wherever you are. Whether it's here at Bellevue Christian with your friends, whether it's at in your neighborhood, whether it's in your church, whether it's in El Salvador with me, or in Thailand or Myanmar with Mrs. Foster or Costa Rica. He prepares you and goes before you and has good things for you to do. And the most, I guess it's not necessarily we're not building things, we're building people. God is using us to encourage others, and we go with the purpose of loving people. And what happens is that they love us back, and they build and encourage us. So I would ask you to continue to pray for the mission teams that go from our school, because it is a challenge. I don't think the language barrier is a problem at all, but I might in Thailand. But it's a challenge. We face fears of the unknown. Am I going to do okay? Am I going to get sick? What's going to happen? Is my roommate going to be decent? I mean, all these things, thoughts that you have. But you can go with confidence knowing that the Lord has gone before you. The people that, your leaders that go with you will be praying for you throughout the year. I mean, I'm already praying for people, whomever comes with me this year. Mrs. Bracestead prays for you all the time. She's put together a wonderful program to help you learn to step out and go and serve. So I simply encourage you to do that, whether it's here or there. So thank you very much. I think these two gentlemen who went with me to El Salvador would like to say a few words as well.
I think one thing before I went on the El Salvador trip is that I always thought, like, to go on a mission trip, you have to build something physical to leave behind, whether that's a house or a well or something like that. But I think that you don't need to do that by building these relationships that do last. And if you do choose to return the next year, these people remember you and they are so excited to see you again. And I saw that in one of the students, that he was asking, where are these people that came last year?
El Salvador kind of changed me in a way in that we spent time there. We played all these games with these other high school kids, and some of them were older than us too. Most of them were, actually. And our Spanish vocabulary improved, and it actually gave me a reason to learn Spanish. Like when I was in Spanish 1 and 2, and I'm just like, yep, it's Spanish. But now I'm like, yes, Spanish. And it's like, because I had two really good, strong conversations in my very broken Spanish, and they're perfect Spanish. And it was just learning how to communicate with people is probably just one of the best things. And yeah, I wouldn't drop Spanish for the world.
Team members, thank you so much for sharing. My hope is that this video might inspire you.
We're 1,000 miles from comfort. We have traveled land and sea. But as long as you are with me, there's no place I'd rather be. I would away forever, exalted in the sea. As long as I am with you, my heart continues to beat. With every step we take, Kyoto to the bay, strolling so casually. We're different and the same, gave you another name, switch up the batteries. If you gave me a chance, I would take it. It's a everlasting, so nothing's incomplete. It's easy being with you, sacred simplicity. As long as we're together, there's no place I'd rather be. With every step we take, Kyoto to the bay, strolling so casually. We're different and the same, gave you another name, switch up the batteries. If you gave me a chance, I would take it. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll make it. Knowing that I hope you can't shame me when I am with you. There's no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no place I'd rather be. No, 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 no place I'd rather be. When I am with you, there's no place.